There are 1,000 videos on how to make a mask out there, but after a couple hundred, I think I've gotten it down to a science, and I'd like to show you how to do that. You're going to need a piece of fabric. I use 100% cotton, and I always pre-wash it because that way when you go to wash your mask after you've made it, it doesn't shrink or misshape. You're also going to need a template, which you can download from the link, and there's a PDF there. I always cut out the large size, and I do that because the seam allowance isn't in the template. So we're actually going to end up making the medium when it's all said and done, and I find that the medium works for most people. If you're going to make a lot of them, it might behoove you to actually do it on a piece of plastic or cardboard so that your template doesn't get all wrinkled and messed up. You'll also need a pair of scissors, some thread, pins, some wire. Some people use bread clips. We'll go into that later. A pair of pliers, a pen, and some tape. And that's it. So we're going to put our right sides of the fabric together. That means the happy print on the inside and the plain side on the outside. Put down your template and hold it in place. And we're going to actually need to cut out 4 of these because we're making a filter pocket that we can put our filter in. So we're going to do a total of 4. There's 2. And then after you're done, 2 more, you're going to put a couple pins in to hold them in place, and then just cut around until you have all 4 completely cut out. The next piece we're going to need is some way to attach this mask to your head. Some people use hairbands, some people use ponytail holders. I find that actually putting the fabric strips on is best because if you have to wear it for any length of time, it doesn't irritate your ears. So we're going to cut out 4 pieces, and these are 1 1/4 inches by 25 inches long. And that's what we're going to use to make our strips. And the first thing I do to make the strip is fold it in half and press it. Once you have it pressed in half, open it back up, and you're going to meet this line in the middle and press that down all the way. And then you're going to do the same to the other side. This is just going to put all your raw edges to the inside so it doesn't fray. One of these edges of the tie is going to go inside the mask. You don't have to worry about it. The other side we want to finish off. So what we're going to do is open it the whole way up, tuck this in a little bit, give it a press, fold your 2 edges in, give it another press, and then we're going to fold the whole thing in half again and iron it all the way down. Once you've done that to all 4 pieces, well, then you're ready to go sew. Now, what we've done is made basically bias tape. You can buy bias tape if you can find it, but since so many people are making masks, it's hard to find. And this way, it'll match your mask exactly. Now we're going to start sewing. What we need to do is start with this curved edge here, and we are just going to use a 1/4 inch seam allowance and sew from this all the way down to here on all 4 pieces, and we're also going to run a stitch all the way down our strips so that they're finished. Before we go to sew, if you decide that you want to embellish it, put your initials on it, the time to do it is now while it's still flat, because once we sew this, it'll have a curve to it and be more difficult to get under the machine. So now we're going to sew our curve. And do that to all 4 pieces. And then we're going to sew all 4 strips. I'm going to start at the point that we didn't tuck under and finish up at the point that we did. And we'll do that to all 4 of them. Now we have our 4 ties sewn and our 4 mask pieces. And the next thing we're going to do is press these. So I'll put the short side towards me, this side away from me, and I press it to the left. And there's one of our 4 pieces, and we'll do all 4 pieces now. Now it's time to start assembling our mask. So 2 of these are going to go together, the other 2 are going to go together. But what's going to go on the outside of your mask, not the filter pocket on the inside, that's the side that's going to get the ties. So the finished edge is going to go to the inside, and the unfinished edge of your tie is going to go to the outside. And I like to ball them up in the middle so they're not going to get in the way as we sew. Now, right side up, right side down. So the right sides are going together, and we're going to pin right here where the seams are going to overlap. And we're also going to pin down each one of these ties real close to the edge, about 1/4 inch in, to allow for your seam allowance. And we're going to pin it all the way around. Now that we have our 4 ties pinned and our 2 seam overlaps pinned, we're going to sew, and we have to leave an opening because we're eventually going to turn this inside out. So I'm going to start sewing here and then sew all the way around, and I'm going to finish here, leaving this gap open for to turn it right side out. When I go to sew, I'm going to go back and forth here a couple times, and that's going to make this extra strong for when I turn it right side in and out.
Okay, it's rolling.
Okay. So you're going to do the exact same thing to the other 2 pieces with right sides together and leaving an opening. And then you have one with ties and one without. And now it's time to flip them right side out. So you just feed it through that little hole that you left open until it's completely right side out.
Roll.
And then if you take a kind of a blunt pencil, you can get the corners. You can use that to reach inside and get all the corners out. And it just makes it easier. And now we're going to press both pieces, and we're going to make sure that we tuck in these ends where we have the opening that we use to turn it right side out. And we're just going to press all the way around. Starting to look like a mask. And we'll do the side with the ties as well. When I first started making masks, I wasn't putting a nose wire in, but then I found out that when you have the nose wire, it fits much better to your face and it makes a better seal. Some people use pipe cleaners, some people use the twist ties. This is floral wire and it's aluminum, so it won't rust. And what I do is I take a pair of needle nose pliers and just turn over the edges so that they're not sharp, and do that to both sides. If you have a smaller gauge wire like I do, then 2 pieces is better than 1. And we're going to tape them together, and you want to use a kind of tape that won't come apart when you wash it. It won't disintegrate, like Scotch tape will disintegrate. So I'm using medical tape, and I just put them next to each other on the tape, and then cut little slots here so that we can fold it over without bunching it up on both sides.
Okay.
Then we're gonna just wrap it in the tape, fold this over the top, and just make a little bundle out of it. So on the side with the ties, that's where the nose wire goes. And we're going to kind of fit it here to see where it's going to start, and give yourself a little extra so you're not fighting with it, and where it's going to stop. And we're going to mark that. We're going to start at this corner. We're going to come over where we hit our line, sew down, and leaving a pocket that's going to be big enough for the nose wire to go in. We're going to come over here and we're going to stop right here. Now that we've sewn from this corner up, down, and all the way over to here and left this pocket, it's time to insert your nose wire. And sometimes it's easy and sometimes it's a little tedious. And you're just gonna feed that up into the pocket until you have it all the way in. Now we're gonna go back to the machine. We're gonna start here, go up to the edge, and go all the way around till we meet back where we started. Now that we've sewn the rest of the way around, we're going to take our back piece and we're going to attach that. And that's going to give us our pocket to put our filter in. I do like to start a little bit on each side here and finish up a little bit on each side, just so it gives it something to hold the filter. But we're going to just sew from here, around and back again. And sometimes it helps to put a reminder so we don't keep going and then have to tear out the top. So we're just going to put a couple of pins in to hold it in place. And then we're going to go over to the machine and sew it real close to the edge. Now that our mask is basically done, we are going to make some filters to put inside of it. So we take our filter paper, and I've made a couple layers so we can cut a couple at the same time. And I don't have a pattern for this, but I basically just kind of follow the mask, and we're going to cut it a little smaller because it has to fit inside the stitching. And we're going to round off the nose so that there's not so much bulk at the top. And I'm cutting 4 layers at the same time, which will make 2 filters. Once you've cut these to fit, and you might not get it on the first try, Lord knows I did not, you want to make sure that you keep one as a template so that when you need to cut filters in the future, you don't have to trial and error it. And make sure that they fit snugly on the inside and yet are fully covered, so that it gives you the best protection but doesn't stick out of your mask. And then we're going to take 2 of these at a time, and we're going to take them to the machine and just roughly sew them together to give them some stability. And I always put the machine at a wide stitch width, so it'll just run through there pretty quickly. Now, just take one of your filters, stick it inside your mask, and you are ready to go to Walmart.